Okay, so has anyone heard one of my talks before? And I don't mean like the keynote thing. So, no. Well, you might not want to stay, but yeah, my name's Mike Demo. This talk is called "The Backside of Water: The Humorous Truth of the State of the Web." This is going to be just a fluid improv style talk. Kind of talking about my experience in the web and things like that. This was originally a 35-minute talk that got put into a 90-minute slot. So basically, those of you who've seen my talks before, I am interactive, so questions, comments, death threats, it's all fair game. But if you guys aren't active and you don't talk to me, it's going to be painful for both of us. So, that being said, if you don't like to get called on, if you don't like to interact, if you're an introvert, I will respect that. Just make sure you give me one of these, and then I will not pick on you again. At least I'll try my best not to. There's also other wonderful workshops you can go to. We might take a field trip to one if this doesn't go well. So, and my clicker's not working, so yeah. So, let's keep going because we have nothing but time to waste. My name is Mike Demo. I'm an evangelist for BoldGrid. There's my email address, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all that fun stuff. What's an evangelist? I get to go around full-time and go to conferences like this. My full-time job is speaking. Ooh, conferences around the world. It's amazing. So I did about 180 days on the road last year at events. So my wife, I think she's still there. One of these days that joke won't be funny. But for now it's okay. So I travel around and I speak to people like you. Because if you did not know this, you guys are people. So you qualify as that. Homo sapiens. And my job is basically community. And I just talk about the web. And it's kind of my dream job. I got this job because of Joomla. I was standing at HostingCon New Orleans with Jason. It was the first event Jason went to for Joomla. As a Joomla volunteer. He's been to Joomla events before that, of course. I drug him over there and I'm like, hey, I'm going to sell a lot of sponsorships and ask people for a lot of money. I need you to help me. He did not feel comfortable with that, but he did a great job. He set the meetings, I sold the money, it was great. And we had a great time. And then I ran into someone, his name's Todd. He's like, hey Demo, you don't remember me? I'm like, yeah, Todd, I met you in Mexico, Joomla World Conference, we went snorkeling, I owe you $40. And he's like, how do you know that? He's like, I don't know, it's my thing. And he owned a company called InMotion Hosting. And InMotion Hosting is a hosting company. It actually used to right now, InMotion Hosting has one of the most visited websites, Joomla websites on the internet for their support center. He's like, I got this new thing, it's a WordPress business, do you want to join? And I'm like, sure. So my full-time job is now I'm a WordPress evangelist. So I travel and I speak to WordPress conferences full-time. And a lot of people are like, wait a minute, but you were on the board at Joomla, and you're a WordPress evangelist. I'm like, yep. And I made sure to steal all that money and funnel it over to WordPress. After I did that, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I don't care about the CMS wars. I don't care about brands. I just care about the web. And that is my passion. Because no client buys WordPress. No client buys Joomla. I don't care what they tell you. I used to work at agencies, which we had hundreds of clients, Fortune 500s, 3M, banks, credit unions, hospitals. I've done 128 Joomla hospital websites and that many WordPress websites as well. I've never once lost a deal because, well, your agency uses this CMS and we want this other CMS. That's never happened. If you know how to position and value what you're selling, they're buying you. And they might say they want WordPress because they want something that's maybe ease of use or editing. And if you guys know Joomla, that's great. It's your tool. Tools are tools. I don't care what tools you use. Because it's all agnostic. And go to other things. Go to WordCamp Miami, which is just in a couple weeks. It's the largest WordCamp in the country, 1,000 people. It's down in Miami, which I know is not necessarily close to here, but it's closer than where I live in Minnesota, and I'm going. But it's an amazing event. Because here's the secret. Most of these conferences, most of the talks aren't about WordPress, they're not about Joomla, they're about business, they're about design. You can go to a Drupal conference and get just as much out of it. Yeah, you might not want to go to the super technical stuff if that's not your bag, but like, if you go to our talk about SEO, right? And they might mention like 6 plugins. Fine, just find the Joomla equivalent of those plugins. You can get so many cool valuables. And here's the best part, you get so much freaking business at a WordPress conference as a Joomla person. Because you're like, oh, I don't do Joomla. Can I give you my leads? It happens all freaking day. Because people know what they know. And they have the tools that they prefer. And then you can in turn pass over, WordPress leads. I just don't understand this ecosystem of we want to be number one and we're going to piss on everything, give the piss on everything that's not. So that's my passion, and this talk is kind of going in how I think the web future is, and it's meant to be a discussion. And like I said, it was meant for shorter, so we'll extend it as much as we can. But that's me. You can tweet at me, questions, comments, death threats, they're all okay. I did that. I said that at a conference in DC. It did not go over well. So I did learn that. My story. Well, you know where I am now, but I'm a college dropout. So, which everyone's like, oh yeah, college dropout, good for you. And I'm like, I still got the student debt though, so it's basically the same thing, right? But yeah, so I'm a college dropout, and I used to work for Disney. And yes, I know the further south you get, the less impressive that sounds. But I say that in Alaska, I'm a star. It's amazing. But yeah, the further to the coast and down I get, I'm both, so is my sister and brother, and I was too. But I used to work for Disney. That's where I learned a lot about customer service and things like that. Really loved it. Ended up at the Team Disney corporate office. Had a good experience. Came back, started doing some website development things, and started my own agency that failed spectacularly. And I'm like, never doing that again. So then went to go work for someone else, and then started working as a technical specialist for a health data company. With that, I started developing internet Joomla sites. And then there was a bank company that made bank websites. They're like, yeah, we have a couple hundred bank websites all in Joomla. We don't have anyone that knows Joomla. I'm like, well, I know Joomla. And I met them, and it was like, yeah, so all of our sites have 1.5. And I'm like, 3 is almost around the corner, right? And I did all that and converted all those sites, and bank websites are very weird. Has anyone here worked on a bank website? Yeah. There's a lot of different rules and regulations that you have to do with it. So I did that, and then from there I went to a downtown agency in downtown Minnesota. I'm from the Twin Cities, by the way. So yeah, this weather was gorgeous. Now this is nice. Like last week I was at California. And it was like 45 degrees and slightly rainy. Everyone was like, oh my God, it's the apocalypse. Because first of all, it's raining in California, which is like, they're on like a 29-year drought. And it was wonderful. I went to Disneyland, had a great time. And this is the other part, is I'm a huge Disney geek. If you think you have a Disney geek in your family or your friend, I guarantee you I beat them. I am in Disney about once a month. And again, Minnesota. I have a coast-to-coast pass. My wife and I spend $4,000 a year on annual passes, and we really love it. I used to do a podcast for Disney, a Disney podcast on Mouse Planet. So if anyone wants to listen to 5.5 straight months of audio of me, and that's not an exaggeration, you go to mouseplanet.com/podcast. We are credentialed press. We are flown around. Coolest experience is we got a call once. They're like, hey, do you want to cover a White House event at Disney? And we're like, sure. Great, here's the people you can send from your team, and there's a car in the driveway, get in it. Yeah, they completely checked us. Security checked our team without us even knowing about it. It was Michelle Obama's Let's Move initiative, things like that. But hey, we did White House coverage. It was a lot of fun. Didn't really pay the bills, but it was a lot of fun. And I just kind of take that. I own Disney Vacation Club, all that good stuff. So, and my wife and I don't have kids, so it's even easier because we have more disposable income. And I travel around, and I go to a lot of conferences in Florida and California because that's where the web conferences are. At least that's what I tell my boss. And at the end of the day, I just talk to people, and my passion's community. So that's me on the left, trying a blue glotini. There are thousands of photos with me. having that drink that was my signature drink when I was a Disney personality. I still get recognized in the parks fairly often, to the point when my name was flagged if I went to a restaurant or something, because I would be a reviewer. And I get recognized in the parks. I got recognized in the parks a few months ago, and I was like, oh, podcast, Disney. Yeah, I saw your talk at WordCamp Hamilton, Ontario. Times have changed. Studio of Vintage Photography. The photo on the right is Spaceship Earth. Yeah, golf ball. You all know it. You're here. But this is an actual Polaroid photo, just scanned in, none untouched up at all. So that I took last summer. So it's a very expensive hobby, but I enjoy it. So with that, and this talk is called "The Backside of Water." Who's been on the Jungle Cruise? Oh yeah! Great. This talk's going to have lots of puns, and there can only be pun. And if you don't like puns, this is really not the talk for you. So get out. Sorry, that was rude. Please get out. Thanks, Jason. And what I was going to do is this talk was going to be a talk where we would go through all the scenes of the Jungle Cruise and talk about how it relates to some weird way to the web. But really, I look at the backside of water. Now this is the backside of water, and this is the ancient Indian bathing pool. It's okay, they all have their trunks on. You can take photos. And you know it's an ancient Indian bathing pool because this photo is taken in India. So that's how you know that. And Schweitzer Falls, the backside of water. Does anyone know who what Schweitzer Falls is named after? Yeah, Schweitzer Falls is named after the famed African jungle explorer, Dr. Albert Falls. Yeah, so it's okay, we'll go over it later if you don't have any problem with that. So, but then you go behind it and you see the 8th wonder of the world, because remember, the Jungle Cruise is world famous for being world famous. And you see literally the backside of water. And it looks a lot like the front. You chant O2H, O2H. Sorry, is that joke too explosive for people? It doesn't get better, so. I'm being perfectly frank. This is gonna have like 10 minutes of content and a bunch of Jungle Cruise jokes. So yeah, and what's funny about it is that it's such a simple thing that people like. It's such a stupid thing. The Jungle Cruise is literally some animatronics. It was the first attraction Walt Disney opened with animatronics, and it didn't even open with the park at Disneyland. But you know, thousands and thousands of people go on this thing, and they're looking at what they think they see, but they don't see what's actually happening. And I look at the Jungle Cruise as an analogy for the web, and of course just philosophical life in general, but that's a different conference. But like with the web, because you know, you see the pretty facade, but there's so much more going on. You got your CMS, you got your Linux, you got your LAMP stack, and you know, you might see the pretty waterfall, but there's a whole backside to it. And we talk about the front end and back end. Did anyone here say the back end of Joomla or the admin? Who says back end of Joomla? Back end. Who says admin? Okay. It changes by state so much. In some states, I say back end of Joomla or WordPress. Oh my God, you think I'd like killed a cat. They're so offended. Like, you said back end, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I meant ass end of Joomla. So, oh, it's ass end, I guess there'd be Drupal. Actually, I have nothing against Drupal. They have a great project. But yeah, so there's all this other stuff going on. So that's kind of what I'm going to dig into. There'll be charts. Ooh. There'll be statistics. Ah. And there'll be lots of stupid jokes. And yeah, so we'll see how long this gets. Please keep your hands and arms inside the boat, or you might get some unnecessary peer pressure. A lot of these make sense if you're on a boat, but we're not in a boat, so use your imagination. And yeah, we'll see how this goes. It's my first time giving this talk. I write about 10 talks a year, but I usually like to practice them, and that did not happen. So this is the true CMS market share. So WordPress makes up 66% of business websites. You might have heard that WordPress makes up 33% of the internet, about almost 40%. That's true. WordPress does make up that percent of the internet. But if you look at just business-based websites, these are ones that are businesses that don't include e-commerce. This does not include e-commerce statistics. It also doesn't include blogs because those aren't business websites. What's funny blog story. I went to a blogger conference, a mommy blogger, a DIY bloggers conference in Salt Lake City. I was one of only 2 men with 1,000 women there. And it was in Salt Lake. It didn't feel like I was in Salt Lake. It was a rowdy party. They hired professional male dancers dressed as unicorns to dance in their official party, and this was like sanctioned, and I'm like, it's in Salt Lake City. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And the conference was crazy because go to this conference, you have to prove you make 6 figures with your blog to be an attendee. So these are people talking about bath bombs and recipes, making a killing. Can anyone guess what the most common platform they were on is? Anyone want to guess? It's the interactive part. WordPress. Blogger. Blogger. No, not Blogger. It's Blogger.com. Google owns it. Yeah. They keep threatening every 2 years to end of life it, but then they don't. It's like ad revenue. And I'm like, why are you on a blogger? They're like, I'm making money. Why would I move it? But Blogger's stupid because it's a blogger. I don't have a reason to say that. And I can talk about the technical reasons why you don't, blah, 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 blah. They're like, yeah, but I'm making money. Why would I touch it? If you're making 6 figures on a blog, even if it's an ugly platform, why would you change it? Because anything you change risks losing all of that. And that's what a lot of these clients have. So 66% of business websites are WordPress. Maybe it's more statistics. So we all know Joomla is around 3.94% of the internet. Which looks really bad if you compare that to WordPress's 36-40%. Which I don't really like comparing them apples to apples because that's a whole other talk. But look, Joomla is 9% of all business websites. 1 out of every 10 business websites is powered by Joomla. That to me is a really cool statistic. It sounds way better than 2.3% of the internet. Wix, but then look at that.
Yeah.
Then Wix, Squarespace, Weebly, Drupal, I'll get to in a minute, and then GoDaddy. So then the next, 12, 13% is all closed source solutions. SaaS, the Wixes, the Weebly's, the Squarespaces. Drupal's in there as well. And Drupal, although they are growing.
But with WordPress, now that it's doing the TV ads and paid advertising, that's probably going to go up.
Yeah, but it's not a fair analogy. It's not a fair analogy to point at WordPress and say, oh, WordPress is doing TV ads, because WordPress isn't really doing TV ads. Automatic is doing TV ads. So, okay, let me back up a minute.
Yeah, but they're building a better brand awareness than Joomla is, for sure.
The brand awareness is out there. So, Drupal has Acquia as their corporate entity. WordPress has Automatic as their corporate entity. But they're technically, the foundation is still a legal nonprofit foundation or not-for-profit, depending on if it's like WordPress is a B Corp or someone's a 501, but it doesn't really matter, right? We don't have that corporate backer. So usually like Acquia and WordPress, Acquia and Automatic, they invest a lot of their time. So like Automatic says 5% of all man hours will be devoted to the WordPress project, and they have hundreds and hundreds of employees. So that's a huge investment that they're making, but it's literally a separate company. So when they do the Super Bowl ad, which they did do a Super Bowl ad, that was Automatic for their WordPress.com brand. WordPress.com is no different than Launch Joomla, except people know about it, right, quite frankly. And these numbers do kind of go up, but WordPress is going on a different direction with their Gutenberg launch, which is more of a drag and droppy feel. They're trying to go after the Wix and Weebly's and Squarespaces of the world because that's how they see the future. Drupal is comfortable at 3%. I'm not saying they don't want to grow because they do, but they have a niche, and their niche is enterprise. And it's high ticket, expensive, and they own it. They own it, and they love it because, they don't really need to grow. And that's my point, is that there's a space for everybody in the system, but the biggest risks or Wix, Weebly, and Squarespace, and all those SaaS solutions. Because some of these SaaS solutions, you don't own your content. Some of these SaaS solutions, you can't migrate away from them, et cetera, et cetera. Granted, it depends on what level of plan you're on. It depends on when you got in, grandfathered in. I'm not going to say any statement like, oh, well, this company is this way, and this company is different, because they change their terms constantly. So sometimes if you're on a higher tier plan, you have different ownership rights, and if you're on a lower tier plan, blah, blah, blah. So if you're on one of those plans, you got to check it for yourself, because I'm not going to make a blanket statement, because it just wouldn't be true. But that's the biggest risk, because people don't own their content. But like,
I also think a lot of, I have some customers that I've worked with that are in those systems, and I went, I think it was last year, and I went into Squarespace, and I got an account, and I built a site. And when you start digging into like the nuts and the bolts of the package up front, it looks very inexpensive. But when you start to add the things that you actually need to get things, it is actually quite expensive. And I think a lot of customers don't understand that in the long run, it is actually going to cost about as much as hiring a freelance developer.
So we can use Shopify as an example. And by the way, I'll talk about these platforms in a minute. But Shopify is a great example, right? Shopify starts at $49 a month. Or you can get started free, but to really have a real thing, it's like $49 a month. And it goes from like $49 to like $99. And it's like from $149. After the $149 jump, it goes up to like $850. There's nothing in between. Granted, that was like a year ago when I looked at the pricing, they might have changed it. But here's what they all do. It's the same way as HubSpot. HubSpot does the same model. Is they start you in early at a low rate. And then when you're successful, because that's when you need to upgrade, when you need more products, you need more bandwidth. When you're successful, that's when the big bill hits. Yeah. So they're nurturing these customers into success, which is a good thing. But because of that, they're going upside down on their plans. And we find that a ton with our company, which I'll talk about a little bit about why we built our product, is once they're at that point, their only option is to rebuild from scratch, or just to keep paying the monthly bill.
Well, a lot of them do because they don't have the time to rebuild from scratch.
Or the resources, or we've already done this much work. And honestly, people hate building websites. People hate launching websites. Does this ever happen to a client? This always happened to me. They would launch a website with you. They'd be so excited. It'd be a honeymoon period, high fives, got that shit done. It's awesome. Then you'd be like, here's how you add your blog. They would never touch it. And then 3 or 4 years later, they call you again, I need to redo my site. And then it'd be another 9-month painful process, or 3 months, or whatever it is. Then they wouldn't touch it again for 3 to 4 years. There's this cyclical cycle that people are used to paying, oh, I need a new website every 3 to 4 years. I just got a plan. That's stupid. That's not what people want. A little backstory. I used to sell timeshare. So I was a top timeshare salesperson in the country. Hated it. It's a boring job. You know how many couples I broke up? I'm kind of proud of that fact a little bit. Because honestly, if me as a timeshare salesperson is going to break up your marriage because one person wants and the other person doesn't, I feel like that's going to happen anyway. Maybe I just tell myself that, I don't know. But here's the thing, is in training they taught us one thing. Again, it happens in car dealerships, right? We try to buy a car, and it's really hard to find out the price of the car. They focus on the monthly payments of the vehicle. People buy monthly payments. And that's true for businesses too. There's a reason why Microsoft went that model. Heck, you can buy an Xbox on a $40 a month plan now at the Microsoft store. I mean, I already own an Xbox, but I kind of wanted to buy another one just because that was a good deal. That to me in my mind was better, even though the total cost of it is like triple.
Right.
Now granted, it comes with some of the online services and games and things, but generally, you're paying more in the long run. People buy monthly payments. They don't want to buy things off that. But we focus on web, and this is one of the things I want to talk about for the future, is the web is so focused. We focus so much on selling these one-off projects. So what I teach, and I have another talk on this, it's a concept that HubSpot coined. Anyone here know Luke Summerfield from Savvy Panda? He used to be a Joomla guy, and he now works at HubSpot. He's the director of training at HubSpot over in Boston. It looks great. He coined a term called growth-driven design, GDD. Growth driven design. And you can get the training for free on HubSpot.com. Yes, HubSpot will say, you have to use HubSpot for this training. Just replace HubSpot with Joomla. It's the same damn shit. It's brand new. It's good training though. And what the whole idea of this is, never sell a website project again. Sell monthly subscriptions for everything you do for all your clients. And clients prefer it. They prefer it. And I've tested this with my clients because I also do some freelancing when I was in agencies. And the agencies that do this make like threefold more money at the HubSpot agencies that don't do this. Because here's how you pitch it. Okay, Mr. Client, you hate building websites because it takes all your time, right? Yes, it sucks. You need to build another one. Yep. And you're not going to touch it again, right? Yep. And you have to throw it out the window and start over again. Yep. What if I told you you'll never have to build another website again in your life? And that's what you do. You start with a Launchpad site. You write a big wish list of all the things they want. You wanted to have a guest book and a counter and all these other things from the 90s. Sorry, I was like looking at the Captain Marvel site and all these wonderful all that things. But yeah, and I wanted to have the chat and AI and live person chat. And I want the AI chat to talk to the live person chat. And all these things that they want because it's new. And then you prioritize based on impact. Based on impact, not based on pretty pictures. Because nobody cares about design. If you're a designer in the room, I'm sorry. Design's important, but it has a function. The function is for why that website exists. And I'll get to some of the other reasons on how to figure that out in a minute. And design is important because it supports the mission and goals of the site. But pretty design without a goal behind it is just pretty design. It doesn't succeed anything. Is it true that better design and better interfaces convert more? Yes. And that's a good thing. But just having pretty pictures without the data behind it doesn't do anything. So, and they say, okay, great. So then what you do is you say, we're going to launch your site in 60 days. Your new site will be live in 60 days. And you start with the basics. The minimum viable product, MVP, that they need to get off the ground. Because if you look at the data, their websites only probably get like, 90% of the traffic go to like 5% of the overall pages. You focus on that. And then every month, every single month, you use data. And you say, what can we do to increase your goals? And every single month, you do a test, you do experiments, hypothesis, and you add from that wish list, you move it over. And you make the site better and better, incrementally. And you know what you're getting in the meantime? You're getting residual income. Lots and lots of residual income. And the site's getting better every month. You can prove it with your data. They'll never cancel because they have no reason to. They can't have an excuse to cancel. If you agree on the goal, if you can prove the goal's getting better with data and it's going in the right direction and you're confident, which I assume you are, I mean, let's be frank, Joomla is not the CMS you pick because it's fun and easy. It's a great, powerful CMS, and yes, I would agree that it is easier than some other things, Drupal. But it's a mix, right? Like if you're just looking for the bare minimum CMS, you're going to Wix, it would be a Squarespace. And yeah, and it's going to get better every single month, and clients love it. I've never had a client, and like people say, well, demo, if that is your real name. They're like, but I did the math, and the client's going to be paying 10 times more over 5 years. Yeah. And what are you complaining about? Because you're getting 10 times more revenue. And the client is succeeding their goals better, their site will stay updated, it'll be better for SEO. How do you figure out what the goals of the site are? Who here, I'm going to put you on the spot, so if you raise your hand just pointing on this. Who here has an example of a time they worked with a project client recently? Cool, Allison. So can you give me an example, like a quick, what was the site about?
A child abuse attorney in New Jersey.
Okay, attorney in New Jersey. And did you ask him what the goal of the site was?
It had been, his previous one had been hacked, and it didn't represent him well.
Okay, so kind of a brochure site. Did you guys talk about any like key performance indicating metrics, or was it just, I just want a pretty I want to bait a new website, just have a new website?
He didn't even talk about pretty.
Yeah.
He just wanted it not hacked.
Okay.
So he wanted a maintenance plan, and and so he was thrilled that it looked great too.
Awesome. But you guys didn't have a discussion, and granted, that's a little different of a situation because it was kind of a pressing situation. The site was hacked, you got to clean it up. But you didn't have a discussion on what the goal of the site was, did you?
A little bit, it's just because, you know, a lot of it is blogish, but, you know, too long, didn't read. But huge legal documents on it about the topic.
Yeah, and so he probably uses that as a resource, thought leader. People might call him if they have something in that vein.
Resources for people needing help.
Sure, and that's the conversation that
I was going to say that's the first question we always ask. We have a form, what's your goal, and then the second, what's your target market, and the other questions. And increasingly, I find people are looking for just business cards online.
Yeah.
Simpler sites. It used to be much more, and now they just want an online business card.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't really know.
Yeah,
and I haven't thought of it.
Yeah, they haven't given it any thought.
Yeah, and I'll talk about the business card in a little bit because I do touch that. Yes, so that's a very common conversation. It's always focused on there's a pressing need, whatever it is, to get the site online. And a lot of times people you ask, what's the goal of your website? Well, I want to sell more. Okay, what does that mean? Well, I said more, so it means more. And that's the conversation, or I need more leads, or more this. And that's the problem, is that we use these terminologies that are not quantifiable. We allow the clients to be generic with us. Has this ever happened to you? You launch a site, honeymoon period, high fives all around, call 6 months later because you want to do a Joomla update or something because you did not sell the maintenance plan. And the client's like, well, that site sucks, didn't do what I was expecting. Does that ever happen to anybody? Yeah, it happens all the time. It's because we don't set expectations in the beginning. Clients need to be hand-holded. I sit down with a client, I'm like, okay, you want to sell more. You're selling your widgets. Widgets are great. And what does that mean? What does more mean? Well, no, more means more. No. I need a number that we can both agree to, so in a year from now, I can point to, and we both know we were successful. I force them to give us numbers and metrics. And if you have numbers and metrics in the beginning, they have nowhere to go when they want to fire you. Because you're proving that you're doing your job. Again, you have to make sure these numbers and metrics are reasonable in the time expected. And the metrics can't just be, well, I want to be #1 on Google in 6 months or whatever. That's a different SEO discussion, but again, that #1 on Google has a reason. What is the reason behind that? Because maybe it's leads, maybe it's clicks, and the goals aren't always what you think it is. I had a client, I had someone talk to me. I was at a talk. They're like, oh hey, I had a client, and they cared most about time on site and bounce rate. And I'm like, great, awesome. What did that mean to you? They're like, well, we thought it meant they wanted to reduce the bounce rate and increase the time on the site. They didn't. The client wanted to decrease the time on site and increase the bounce rate as high as possible.
Yeah.
It was a utility, and they wanted their website to be so easily searchable that they could easily get to the page they needed, like report a blackout, pay a bill, without any clicks, and to get the people done. Because they are like, we're a utility, we're a service company, we don't want people to be lost on our website. That's a very different mission statement, but they didn't ask the question. And to be honest, I wouldn't have either. I would have assumed, well, you want blah, 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 like everyone else does, because more is better. You need to find out what the goals of the sites are, and every site's a little different. Sometimes the site might be informational. So maybe the key performance indicators are how many people stay, how long stay on the site, how do they engage, how often is it shared. Maybe it's more quantifiable, like lead sales and all that. And I will get to the brochure thing. But you force this conversation. You force it. And here's how I force it. Mrs. Client, your website's a magic money machine. If I can prove to you every dollar you give me, I give you $2. How many dollars will you give me?
You're asking me?
Yeah. And I ask it like that, and I don't say a word. I just stare. By the way, timeshare sales tip.
$50.
Every penny you have.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you can prove it, and then I say, great, I'm going to hold you to that. And then they laugh nervously. They do. And you have a contract that's formed in a way that when you're successful, they give you more money. And then you engage more. You do more tests, more changes, more iterative things. And when you do it that way, the client's being more successful, you're getting more money. And yep.
I was going to say, one of the challenges is, and I'm always nervous about that type of thing,
Yeah.
is when the client is very much the dependency of success, i.e., well, have you written anything? Like, have you given Google anything to look at? And so do you either push that issue or force them to hire or bring in a content writer or something, just sort of, because we only can go so far, so I sort of only want to I can only promise so much if I'm not in complete control.
See, but if you're doing a
So it's a relationship situation.
Yeah, but if you're doing an income project, you kind of have to be in control, and this only works for agencies that have resources to pull from for the different areas. But yeah, you have the conversation. If you think the client's going to be weak on content, which, let's be honest, it's always an issue. That's always an issue. Then when you do, like on HubSpot, they have a calculator. They have a spot in there like content writing. So you actually have to estimate. You estimate on the HubSpot calculator. You have this big form, and you put in like all the line items. Ask you all these questions, like how long do you think? If you were going to give it a blank check and the resources that you need to make this site successful, what would you need in charge? Do you think the client's not going to give you content, which they won't? You put that in there, and you line that all out, and then it'll tell you what the monthly rate should be. So yes, you have to account for the entire package. Because this doesn't work when you're like, well, you didn't do your part. And it just doesn't. And you got to hold the feet to the fire. And I do things like when I was doing agency, we had terms in there that every day that you didn't get back to an email, like we gave the client an SLA. We give the client an SLA. I've seen agencies charge for every email that the client sends them. And that does two things. It makes sure they get all the information in the first email, and it makes sure that it's succinct and to the point. I'm not saying all these ideas you have to play for yourselves and see what makes sense, but I've done client SLAs. You will get back to me within, or X is going to happen. And it's all about setting expectations, because I've really never lost a client to like any of this stuff if you set it in the first place. Clients are very flexible with their money and their time if you set the expectations ahead of time. It's when the expectations are different and you don't set that up ahead of time. For example, I freelance right now. And I have a couple freelance clients I've had from before. But when they call me, they're like, "Hey, can you freelance for me, Mike?" And I'm like, "Sure. I'm not going to be on call. I'm not going to be available. It's going to take 5 business days for me to get back to you." Now, for a lot of people, that's not acceptable. But with my job, that's honestly the expectation that I can set with them. And I only have 10, 15 hours a week of my free time that I can devote to these projects. And I need to be selective, and it has to be a good fit for them. I'm like, I have to tell them, like, if you're looking for that, my site's broken at 9 o'clock, or I need something the same day, I'm not the person for you. I can recommend someone, but I'm not that guy. Now my rates are in line with that sort of expectation. I've had to cut my rates in half because I found if I was any higher, the expectations went up. So there's that weird sweet spot that the more you raise your price, like every time I've raised my price, I've gotten more business, never less. But then you get those clients that expectations go up. And to be fair, rightly so. When I was $250 an hour, they expected on-time response. And to be frank, I don't blame them, right? But so like when I got this job, I needed to change that so that I could quite frankly ignore them long enough so that I don't have time. But I mean, but I said that on the first phone call. I don't overpromise. You underpromise, overdeliver. Everyone says it, but there's all these different things, and rates are funny because you're probably undercharging your clients right now. Everyone in this room probably is. Everyone does it. They talk on YouTube. It's Creative Mornings, Mike Manizani. The title is "Fuck You, Pay Me."
Oh, my favorite.
Those who've seen it know how good of a talk it is.
His lawyer's great.
Yeah, his lawyer, they call him the super lawyer, is great. It's amazing. It really taught me to just charge more because people are willing to pay it. So anyway, I've got it on a tangent on this one slide.
I have a quick question
Yeah.
before you go further. You're talking about like getting the specifics up front.
Yeah.
How do you quantify that on a brochure style website where there really isn't, I mean, the best you're gonna get is kind of an email request for quote or something like that. How do you get?
Sure. Well, then you work backwards. You say, okay, you get an email quote form. Use that as an example. Okay, so you get an email quote form. How many quote forms does it take for you to get to the next? Well, first you ask them what their sales process. So let's assume their sales process is quote form, consultation call, face-to-face meeting, close. And then you ask how many quote forms it takes to get to the consultation call, how many consultation calls it takes to get to the in-person meeting, how many in-person meetings it takes to get to the close. And then you work backwards. And you say, okay, well, if it's 10 quote forms, 5 calls, 4, whatever it is, you work backwards to figure out what they need to be successful, and you ask them what these numbers need to be, and then you set your rate based on the work effort that you've already calculated to get there. Because if it's a quote form, and you say, okay, great, if we know that 1 out of every 10 quote forms is going to give you a sale, and your average sale value is 10 grand or whatever it is. Every client's different, obviously, and some are very low ticket things, like $5. You say, great, well, what's your goal? What do you need to get? And they say, well, I want X. Okay, then we need to deliver this many quote forms. Yes, you can talk about optimizing it further down there, but a lot of that's outside your hands, unless you're doing like an automated sales funnel, like a marketing automation thing. And you just kind of work backwards that way is what I always do. And then that's how you kind of set the ideas ago, and then I always frame it, our content, good, better, best. You say, here's the bare minimum result that you find successful. Here's the good and best, and then you can scale how much you charge accordingly. When I say how much you charge, I don't mean, oh great, we get a bonus because we delivered best. It just means you scale up to the higher engagement because it's working. Comfortable in the low end. And what I usually do is I usually do a minimum 12-month engagement so that the year of the engagement would equal what that website would probably cost anyway if I was doing it as a one-off. So it's like the same amount of money, but then you have a year to have it be successful. Because here's the biggest secret in web design. We're guessing. We're guessing. We're making our best guesses based on knowledge and experience and best practices, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, every set of users is different. Every set of users is different, and I guarantee you, your clients don't know who are visiting their website. I guarantee you they don't. I've had clients who are like, the #1 target is college. #1 is college students, fraternities and sororities. They want our food product. And I'm like, okay. And then we did a study, and we started looking at research. You know who's visiting their website? Single mothers. Because it was sugar-free and organic. But you know why they thought it was college kids? Because the marketing manager just graduated from college, and his dad owns the company. And you know what was in their fraternity? Lots of this product. And this is a national brand that you would recognize, which obviously can't say. But people don't know the data. And even clients that have done research, they're just guessing. They're like, well, okay, these are the types of people. You should ask them because it's a great place to start. But you need to look at the data. Everything's about data-driven decisions. The data will control everything.
How did you find out it was single mom, or moms with low income?
Analytics has a premium tier, has demographic information.
Okay.
So, and we also looked, there was no .edu, there's no college IPs coming to the site.
Right, okay.
That all, I mean, that's what tipped us off, and then we dug in further. And then we started testing it. Okay, great, let's have a mom on the counter with their son or whatever. Sales went up. Okay, let's focus the recipes less on junk food, like type of things. Yeah, and let's focus more on like healthy lunches and snacks and things like that. Sales went up, and it's just like, and it seems so silly looking back on it now. It's sometimes the stuff you don't know. I recommend, I have a whole talk on testing crazy shit. It's called Which Way Does Your Duck Face? If you Google it, you'll literally find over 50 videos of this talk. I'm not exaggerating. And it's all about the crazy stuff. Hey, 1/2 hour now. It's all about the crazy stuff. And And like I had a national insurance company we were doing data on. So much research. And their goal was we wanted to increase the quote flow because the more quotes for the insurance company, blah, blah, blah. So we tried 5-minute quote or easy quote or no obligation quote, and we tried different layouts and looks and pictures and non-stock photos. Tangent on stock photos. Who here uses stock photos? Who here refuses to use stock photos? Oh, nobody? Usually the person who raises their hand, they're the photographer in the room. If you don't want stock photos, there are stock photo companies that specialize in non-stock looking stock photos. It's weird, I know, but it does exist. Yeah, so we tested everything on this site, and this site was getting millions of visitors of traffic, millions. And I am proud to say we increased the conversion by 80%. Yay! You know how we did it? A 2-pixel drop shadow on a button. 2 stupid pixels. Tested this. Millions of visitors. I had A/B testing. Millions of visitors. And it held up for 1 million visitors, 2 million visitors, 3 million visitors, 4 million visitors. And before you start adding drop shadows to everything, keep in mind that users are weird.
Yes.
There's not a way you can't put everyone in a box. Every set of users are different. They're using different devices, different ways to interact. The internet is changing ever much. Samsung just released a foldable phone. What? So now your websites have to literally be above the fold?
On a phone?
Yeah. Well, folds, physically. I have to admit, I kind of want one, but I'm like, why? Yeah, but the iPhone's already $1,200. Is it really that much different at this point? I mean, really. I mean, seriously. Unless you're buying your phone with cash, but let's be honest, most people aren't because people buy monthly payments. Yes, I know there are some people that buy their phones with cash, but let's be honest, it's the vast minority of the users, of the consumers, and that's why they do it. They used to subsidize the phones, but they don't anymore because they don't need to. They're like, oh hey, if we just split it off monthly and say you get a better phone, and say you can upgrade any time, it's paying off the difference on a phone that's already underwater the day you walk it off the dealership. It's genius. So, and if you buy your own phone, I salute you. I do not buy my own phone. I'm that every year upgrade type of guy because I buy monthly payments. By the way, salespeople are the easiest people to sell. Just that way. And yeah, so you really all these devices are changing. So people interact with them so differently. So you really got to test. And use the data to do your decisions. If you can do that with your retainer, because it's a lot harder to build a website than try to sell services later unless you build the expectation up front. Okay, and then last but not least, brochure websites. Have the conversation about why they want the site to exist. Everyone has a goal on why that site exists. That goal might be to have a professional presence. But a lot of times it's a thing like these, whether it calls. Who here's client has phone numbers that they have on their websites? Who here tracks those calls? Yeah, only a couple people do. It's the easiest way to like all of a sudden make you a rock star. Because some people, the quote forms don't work, but they get called all day long. So there are add-ons for who can use and track the calls that go through it. But hardly anyone uses it. And for those that do, bravo. Because I have had clients that have had like no quote forms filled out ever. But they've gotten hundreds and hundreds of calls, and they're over the moon. And until I could prove it to them, they didn't think it was us. And it's all about the data. Like Chris had his talk about Data Studio yesterday. It's a really good talk. So you really have to kind of ask what the site's about. And if it really is a brochure website, is that the type of client you want to go after? Because as you start getting more retainers, you'll be able to be more selective because it'll be less important to close every deal. Ideally, that's the idea, right? So you can be more selective on the clients that make sense for you. And if it is just a brochure website, then you can still add in a small retainer to improve on it, and then maybe every quarter have them do like an ask them and keep it updated. Because if you keep the site updated with this process, the site will never look the same. It should not look the same 2 years from now as it does day one, which that would go back to never do a new website again. And you're getting money for that whole time. Okay. Spaceship Earth, golf ball. This is on Spaceship Earth. If you're not on Spaceship Earth at Epcot. Okay. Wow. Where's Florida, right?
Didn't go see the buses though.
What?
Didn't go see the buses.
Epcot, yeah. So anyway, Spaceship Earth, it's a history through communication. So it starts out cave people, blah, blah, blah. And that's how I feel websites. Websites are literally communication. WordPress's tagline is to democratize publishing, which is pretty cool because I think websites are freedom of speech. The power for us to be able to help people share their message online is super powerful. And I don't take it lightly. The web is literally the Gutenberg printing press, and yes, don't talk about the WordPress thing right now, but of the modern age. Although fun fact, Gutenberg did not invent movable type; the Chinese did. So, but hey, of course the European Caucasian guy got all the credit. So, but you know, that's the funny thing is like we have the power to shape the message so much, and I don't take that lightly. So, you know, what is a website? I view website as a communication platform. You can really share the voices of these businesses. There are people behind these brands, behind these companies. There are reasons why these sites exist, and I don't take that lightly. And I recommend you don't either. We all have those clients that honestly, I want to have those clients that when they call, you're like, talk to them. You know, if you have enough of a client base, you might not need to keep those clients. Finding clients is one of the best feelings in the world. I've done it sparingly, like twice. It's not like I'm like Donald Trump. You're fired, you're fired, you're fired, and then became president. Political jokes also are dangerous in different parts of the country. And because I have a talk that compared the Hillary and Donald Trump campaign from an optimization standpoint. I did this right after the election in Texas. I did. And then I saw inclusion and LGBTQ for some reason. And I am, yes. I was shot once, but I was 12. That got more real than I was expecting. I apologize. But it's fine. We sued him. I got money. That's 10 grand as a 12-year-old. Yes. All the Xboxes. Actually, Xbox didn't exist at the time. But yeah. No, I went into a stupid trust fund. I had to wait till I was 18, and then I got all the Xboxes. So yeah, I mean, really, communication and all this different stuff. Wix, Weebly, Squarespace. Here's the truth on them. They're amazing. The tools are so damn good from a user experience standpoint. Put yourself in the shoes of someone who doesn't know anything about the web. And that's what they're doing right. You can get online in 30 seconds. Yes, I know what you're all thinking. Yes, I tried this once, and I tried to do X, Y, or Z, or look at the code, or go to the admin, or I tried to build a custom template, and they claim they have a custom template system, or they claim they have an API, but it doesn't do this, or can't do polls, or can't do posts, and do this, and I'm like, stop. You're thinking like a web designer. And they don't give a crap about how the site's built. They care about their business, they care about ease of use, they care about spending time with their family, and these tools get it right. And we can learn from them, which is why I think WordPress going in the direction of Gutenberg, the page builder makes sense. The biggest fault right now is we're nothing. We're all things to all people. They used to always give this analogy with Joomla. WordPress is over here, super easy people. Drupal's over here, super developer people. We're the happy medium. That means nothing. It means marketing niches. The biggest weakness Joomla has is we don't have a marketing niche. I'm not saying it should be. It might not be the direction of the drag and drop. It might be something else. But we need to find that marketing niche. But Wix, Weebly, and Squarespace, yes, I understand as a developer myself. Yes, I get it. I've done it. I know it's painful, but the users like it. And they can feel like they're successful. Their sites might not convert for crap. But that goes back to the goals. You need to have these conversations. What are the goals? And if we focus so much on pretty pictures, these people will win. because they make really pretty pictures pretty. They do. Their designs are pretty. Maybe better, sure, but their designs, there's some really nice ones in some of them. I mean, I've built Shopify sites and things for clients that are already in there and things, and I was kind of impressed. If you look at it honestly from a user experience standpoint, they do a lot of things right. Now some of them suggest content blocks and things like that. And open source is trying to figure out what to do in this, and this is the problem with the future, is that we are either being dug in saying development is best because it's development. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like the web designers back in the 90s when CMSs websites. I was writing middle school papers in HTML. I have teachers didn't appreciate it, but whatever. Full syntax. I didn't do meta tags back then either, but I did title tags on my papers. Fun fact, I had to do a study website. The MIDI song, everyone bites the dust in the background. I'm not saying it was classy, but I was 12. And look, I can make it play music. But yeah, all these people, like, I'm never going to use it. He said his famous words are, I hate WordPress, it's going to ruin my business. Because to him, WordPress at the time was the Wix, Weebly, and Squarespaces of then. Wait, you're giving clients access to edit content? And you're letting them back then? No, like, I charge $500 to change a color. And we're laughing, but that's what it was. Oh, you got to build your menu from scratch. We got to use that Dreamweaver. And that's what it was. We were the used car salespeople. We were. I know more than you don't know, so I'm going to exploit you for it. So then CMS started hacking and giving clients access to edit their content. Sacrilege. Why would we do this? This makes no sense. And then I was in college. I say this is the reason why I dropped out, but it's just because I had a decent opportunity. But I was in college, and I built a website in open source CMS, PHP Nuke. Yay! And I had a professor tell me, it was a web design course, no, corporations don't use CMSs. And this was, by the way, the same project that won an International Web Design Award for DECA at Disneyland of all places during the 50th anniversary. It just happened to be there. Again, I was still doing that same that I'm doing now, even when I was in college, in high school. And it was all that stuff. And it was like back then, it was like, oh, Flash is not real development or whatever, or Flash is great. I did Flash websites. I didn't even remember Swish. The Swish software? Man, that was awesome, wasn't it? So, oh man, Swish made the complication of CMS people like, but it still happens today. People are like, well, I don't give my clients admin access to their site. I want them to charge me to pay me to admin. What? Why the F are you on Joomla or WordPress? Why are you on CMS at all? There's no reason to be on the content. They're like, oh, well, it's too complicated for them. Great. Use ACL to hide all the shit that they don't need to see. You know what we did for our Joomla agency is we had 2 templates, one for the client and one for us. And the client could click a button and go over to the full admin template. But we had a client admin template, and all it was or whatever was important to them, and it just went to those things. We didn't lock them out of anything, but we hid everything they don't need to see. And clients loved it. And the way we got our deals, when people said, well, why shouldn't you use WordPress? Great, well, you can use anyone that knows WordPress, but we're one of the foremost experts in Joomla. So we have to figure out how we can exist in this open source, as open source, in this other ecosystem. And burying our head in the sand is not going to work. And clients want the monthly retainer cost. They do. They've spoken. So we need to figure out how to build that into our model. I'm going to talk about BoldGrid a little bit. BoldGrid is a suite of ecosystems. It started as emotion hosting. We found a lot of clients were canceling their WordPress sites because they just couldn't be successful. They couldn't build a website. you know, upwards of 60% of people that were buying WordPress hosting were canceled in 30 days. So we wanted to build a system. But then we discovered that users really want the Wix and Weebly experience, and we built it for WordPress. By the way, the code's on GitHub. If anyone wants to fork it for Joomla, the code's on GitHub. And we have millions of sites on our platform. And then we became a larger ecosystem. We have other plugins that make WordPress easy. And that's our answer to it. Is it gonna be successful? It seems to be. We hope it'll be. My travel budget hopes it will be. But that's one approach, and there's other approaches. In the Joomla space, there's other page builders. Like, it might not make sense for what you're trying to do, and that's okay. But again, think about the end user experience. It's all about the end user experience and how to help them maintain the content. Walt Disney said, if you can dream it, you can do it. Excuse me. 25 more minutes. We can do this. If you can dream it, you can do it. And I love this quote. Because, first of all, he never actually said it. It's a quote that was attributed to him. Imagineer said it in an Epcot promotional video about Spaceship Earth. And this is not his exact quote at all. But it's a really cool quote because it's true. I mean, if you can create something, you can build it. And like, it's the same reason why like people try to force things into Joomla that it shouldn't be in Joomla. Like people, and you try to force it into Joomla and find extensions for like a content management system or like an intra-office time polling thing and all this stuff that is like, there's really good apps that do this already, and you try to force it into Joomla because you just like Joomla. I've been guilty of that. There's a whole toolbox. Use the right tool for the job because it's going to serve you and serve your clients better. Don't force a round peg into a square hole. There used to be a CRM for Joomla called Creamery. I usually say CRM. Mary had a cow as a logo. And you have your Joomla application layer, and then you have your extensions on top of that. So it's adding all this server tech to build that for a content management system. Not content management system, CRM, customer relationship management system, like Salesforce or something. And it worked okay. Zoho, and for $10 a month, get the same functionality like instantly. Use the right tool for the job. Help your clients be successful for their goals, and it goes back to their goals. And there's a whole way to do it. If you don't know if you don't know API coding, I've tied Google Sheets with Facebook. I've tied Twitter with PayPal. Some are more successful than others, but I've done it. And it exists. And use the right tool for the job. If you look at the Joomla World Conference sponsorship deck right now. Seriously, Joomla World Conference. I get a lot of crap because that deck is not in Joomla. It's in a service called Spawn-Easy. You know what Spawn-Easy does? It tracks the emails, it tracks the sales, it tracks the inventory, and we can build it in 25 freaking minutes. And we pay like $8 a month because that platform works for the goals that we're trying to do for that. Use the right tool for the job. And sometimes Joomla's not the answer. And when you know other tool sets, you'll get better. By the way, like sometimes the weird stuff pays really well. Anyone here do like ASP Classic? Okay, ASP Classic is a flat file system before ASP.NET. If you're an AP Classic developer, you can bill over $750 an hour. There's only like 6 in the country. Now granted, the user base is getting super legacy systems. And there's a spot for everything. The market will kind of work itself out. That's what Free Enterprise is. And find your niche and own it, but also learn. Because you never know what the future's going to hold. Mambo, the day Mambo won the best open source project of the year, forked to Joomla. We do not know what the future holds. We don't know if WordPress will be around in 10 years. We don't know if Joomla's going to be around in 10 years. I hope so, but like you can't predict the future. You have to be ready for wherever it goes. And if you hold your head in the sand, you're going to be left behind. And imposter syndrome. This is also a common issue that I find a lot of developers have. Not good enough, I can't do this. Which, by the way, funny thing about imposter syndrome, I had to give a talk last weekend at WordCamp Phoenix on imposter syndrome. And they called me on Thursday, the talk was on Saturday, hey, we've got to tell you on that. What? My talk's not on that. But yeah, but you have something on that, right? No. And I was literally in a plane. I was in an Uber going through the Disneyland studio to meet. It was, and we pulled it together, and it was about, and I did it on imposter syndrome. And the whole thing is, all these developers and people think they're not good enough. I'm not a real developer because of this or that, and you know, and the more like when I became treasurer, I was terrified. Did I make some mistakes? Sure. But I fell into it because our last treasurer left without notice. And literally when I said it without notice, I meant, well, thank you. It was like, you know, literally no notice. And we had no access to any of the money. So, you know, I did the best I could. I needed someone to validate the work. And then now we have a new treasurer, Jason R., up in New York. He's doing a great job. But, you know, don't let imposter syndrome get you down, because that's what a lot of people fall on. Planning is very important. Ignore page 33. This was a workbook. There was a workbook, so you can turn to page 33 and see nothing. But anyway, this is a screenshot, and this is what I make them ask all their clients. Like, what do they want to share? What blah blah blah. What are the basic goals of the site? And it was like a very cutesy workshop because it was like a bunch of startup entrepreneurs that are like, it was a very and keep it simple. Websites don't need to be complicated. Core can do a lot. People don't give credit to how much Core can do, and that's true for any CMS. WordPress is like the Apple App Store of the CMS world. WordPress is pretty damn powerful, and so is Joomla. The first thought shouldn't be, let me find an extension for that. I know, I've done it too. Oh, is there a plugin that can solve this problem? Because I don't want to think. And then you spend more time trying to style it so it matches everything else, when you could have just done it yourself in the first place. The higher it is and all that stuff. So like, really keep, you know, upgrading. Just really keep it simple. Blogging, content's important, as we all know. Getting content from clients is really hard. Here's my trick on content. My project manager made an Excel spreadsheet because he's an Excel wizard. And what it was is, every project we had a big spreadsheet, and it was every piece of content for that website, for the starting that we needed from the client to get going. And it had character count tools, so like if the title needed to be so much, right into the cell, and it would go to a Google Drive, a Dropbox account. And we said, do not send this to us until the score says 100%. And I'm talking about sometimes enterprise level, like 500, 600 page website. I'm like, we don't want to see this document until this is complete. And once you what your designs match to this, clients love it. Because no more are you getting like one Word doc and another Word doc and then images inside of a Word doc, because that exists. It works. So my trick on content is just set the expectations. Tell the client to need that last Bob. And
hey Mike, one thing too I was going to say on your content thing. One trick that was like life-changing for us in our contract is we added an extra page on there about content. Your content is due on. They gave them 3 choices, and it was like, you will have this content to us by that time.
Yeah.
Like, great, you do that. If not, we can put your project on hold, and it's like 25, 50 bucks a week or whatever. Or we can have it copy written for you, and it will be at a cost of this much. Reoccurring billing, or I'm going to have my copywriter start doing it. And it was huge, because as I said, they would all say, no, 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 I will have it. That's great. Just go ahead and initial it, write signature. Won't let you submit your signature until you check one.
Yeah.
That was huge, and that helped us a
Yeah,
lot.
I mean, we did the same thing. It's all about like my wife, she's going for a director position at her school, which she's the interim right now, and she got the phone interview, and I'm a little bit disappointed because like that means we can't move, and I was going to move in Celebration, but and she's like, one of her friends, she's like, well, I don't know if I want it, and one of her colleagues was like, well, when you do an interview, you're also making sure that that's a right fit for you. Same is true. The best developers in the world, like Justin last night, I can guarantee you there are some clients he shouldn't work with. Own it. It's that. And I was talking to Chris on the drive to Disney last night because why wouldn't we be going to Disney? I mean, an hour and a half drive for 2 hours in the park? Yes, please. I'm going to go. I told you. I told you. And he's like, he talks about SEO. He's like, I say SEO is a religion, where you look at the Bible, and you look at the Bible, in this case is Google's algorithm, and you can't translate it literally. And I'm not going to get into that discussion right now, but it's true for web development. You got to kind of pick a path and stick with it and have that relationship. It's a two-way street. And the minute you stop feeling like a servant for your clients, and someone that is helping and being an integral part of their team, you're going to get paid fast. Ignore the vulgar backup. Let's use your WordPress. The backup on Joomla, I like Kiba backup. Actually, I like a Kiba backup on Joomla too. Just don't tell Vulgar. No, Vulgar backup's pretty cool. We have some different features, but it's work. But if you do the residual income thing, you already have the maintenance plans in there. And you never have those big surprises, but like a lot of clients will think, oh, my site won't get hacked. It's not a target. Yes, your site will get hacked. It's just a matter of time. Sell security plans, all that different type of stuff. The official security partner, they even have a good affiliate arrangement as well. Oh, it's in my doc. So yeah. So with that, let's go back to the Oh, come on, there we go. So with that, we are awesome. There's like 1,000 rocks in that photo. A lot of people take that for granted. At least you understand my side. So with that, we're gonna have lunch. There's a couple different options. By the way, the Supreme is for cannibals. So next to that, there's some finger foods. If you get in a little late, you get some cold shoulder. Yeah, I went to a cannibal's house the other day. Said, hey, your wife makes a delicious stew. Yeah, I'm going to miss her. So with that, somehow we got through this. Of all the talks I've had recently, you guys have been the most recent. So I really appreciate that. I think you're wonderful. I think you're 10 minutes for questions, comments, or death threats. So that we can have a discussion. Otherwise, get out. Sorry, that was rude. Please, get out. And again, thanks for coming. I really do appreciate it. But yeah, so if anyone has any stories or anything, you can share them, talk amongst yourselves, start raising all your rates, calling your clients. I mean, that's a lot to do all that.